The longer item is something that really it's unfortunate that it's this late in the day, because I wanted to talk a little bit about workforce housing. I know that council members are very well aware that there's a shortage of workforce housing in the city, and that this affects a lot of the people who are members of our community, who provide essential services to our community, whether they be teachers, child care providers, public safety officers, and they cannot reasonably afford to live in the city where they work. And you're also equally well aware that the city's housing division has several programs on the books to try and improve this situation, but if you recall the performance measures that are listed in the budget, really we're able to bring on 2 to 3 new houses a year. It's a small amount. And we believe that more can be done if we can find some additional resources. So what we're going to do in the coming months, what you're going to be hearing about is several proposals to use surplus city property as a source for investing in the development of workforce housing. And what I want to do today is just kind of really sketch that out. Marcy Whitaker, I think, came in from her vacation in case there are any questions about her programs. But really here's what we've done so far is the city staff has been able to inventory and map pretty much all of the city-owned real estate. Now, you come up with 530 some odd parcels, and most of those are they're in use, but we've identified at least 20 parcels right now that we think could be surplused. And so we're doing some additional research and internal review to make sure that none of those properties could be, would have some public purpose that we want to hold them back for. And what we intend to do then is, once that review is complete, we would bring those surplus properties to you as a council, or what we feel could be surplus, and ask council to approve those properties as surplus. And then we would manage them in such a way, sort them into categories, so we would either sell those properties and use some or all of a portion of the money to fund the existing housing programs or create new programs. Some of that would be direct sales, perhaps with some additional development guidelines associated with them. Some of it could be direct sales for the use of an affordable housing project. But that would be determined once they've been declared surplus. The other thing is the city could use those properties as an in-kind contribution for some of the existing housing programs. And what we want to end up with is market rate housing. So from that, what everybody sees is a nice, aesthetically pleasing house that's appropriate for the neighborhood. It's a market rate house. But for those people who may be struggling to meet the requirements to get into that housing, there would be a program that would be partially funded through either direct sale of city property or through the contribution of that city property to the project. That's how you get the market rate housing, but you get income qualified people into those houses. So that's the big picture of what we're trying to do. And as I said, we've probably got 20 or so parcels. You'll see a fraction of those hopefully at the November council meeting that we'll start this process of asking you to go ahead and declare them surplus. Of course, before any sale or disposition of the property, they would have to come back to you again for approval for the manner in which it's disposed in. But also on the November agenda, we want to start talking about the Blount School property. We believe there's a real opportunity here to develop the Blount School property in a way that, and what we're working on is an RFQ that would come to you in November, hopefully, saying here's what we would envision for the Blount School property, and there would be a request for proposals to go ahead and create the development plan, the financing plan for that property, so that we bring on what we think could be 15 to 20 homes with green space amenities that would be produced at a market rate, but then we would find a way to get income eligible people into some of those houses, and that's where it would dovetail with the existing programs that housing has. So again, I'm going to just kind of leave it at there. What we know is that this is a problem that the city has. It's a problem that we can't solve alone, but we think we can create some of the models. If you look around other cities in the country, they're working on something like this or some form of this, and then actually private companies are coming in and following on the same model. So we think it's a very viable model, and we just need to get started with it. We want to start with the Blount School property, and hopefully we can do that in November. And again, we'll be available for questions. We'll be providing more information, certainly between the housing division with Marcy and some of this will also be working together with the county, because the county has some properties in the city that they may want to actually turn over to us. We see some real opportunity here.
Okay. Councilman Wu?
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Also, Mr. Administrator, something I've advocated for in the past, but I'll mention it again, is I'm also interested in seeing the city provide empty lots when possible for the concept I call urban gardening. We have an awful lot of people that are very hungry, and we can establish community gardens and have people plant vegetables. There'd be a good way of utilizing land that's sitting empty, but also at the same time providing nutrient to people that might be hungry and in need of good nourishment. So,
okay. Other questions? Okay, Mr. Olson. Is that it?
That's my report.
Okay.